Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Designer's Craft. Thank you very much for joining us this lovely evening where we will talk about technology design. For those who are joining us live and for those of us who will join later and watch the recorded video, karibu sana, as you say in Kiswahili. And really, this conversation is quite an interesting one around what technology design is. So for those who might be familiar with it, maybe you're a user experience designer, a user interface designer, a product designer, and even a term I came across this morning when someone connected me on LinkedIn, and he's a conversation designer. I loved it, a conversation designer at Facebook. You see, this type of people, this craft really, is around technology design. The technologies we use every day are actually designed by people. Sometimes we take it for granted when we access even YouTube today. It takes a lot of work by people in the background. Designer's craft is about bringing those people to the foreground and understanding exactly what they do. So over the next series, every single month, on the 25th of the month at 7:30 p.m. East African time, we'll be having the Designer's Craft. So I'm very excited about our guest today. But before I introduce him, let me introduce myself. My name is Kagonya Awori, and I'm a lover of technology design. My specific area is human-computer interaction. Yes, it's a mouthful. I always get it wrong sometimes. But this is what brings forward user experience design, user interface design, communication design, a whole list of them. So really, this is what you study in order to be in any of these fields. My background is quite extensive in professionally and academically. And really, it's a field that I get out of bed for. Why? Because I believe that we can create the right technologies as Africans to solve African problems. And this is my path to doing so. So I'm very excited you're here. Our guest, Magnus, is like yearning to talk to you guys and introduce himself and tell you about what he does. So I'm going to bring him on. Please feel free to ask questions. So right on your YouTube comments, please feel free to throw in a question, throw in a comment. And as the show continues, I'll be able to ask a few questions. If your question is not picked, don't worry. Fiona is helping me to answer them now, and we can answer them later after the show. So please settle back, relax, enjoy your dinner, and let's have a conversation around technology design. So let me bring in Magnus. Hey, Magnus, how are you doing?
Hi, guys. How are you? I'm doing great.
Great. It's great to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Yes, and being the first guest on this show is quite exciting. I'm really excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm excited. You can hear me well? Can you hear me?
There's a bit of a delay, but not. Okay. We'll work with it. There's a bit of a delay.
All right, no problem.
So could you introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do?
All right, good. My name is Magnus MG. MG is Murag Gishoke. That's actually my name. Magnus is a pen name. It started off as a joke. I started doing some stuff. I started writing some stuff, and I didn't want people to know. Basically, it's a pen name, so I really didn't want people to know about it. But somehow it just got out, and I said, let me just own it before it goes. So I think it didn't really work the way I wanted it to work as a pen name. But yes, my name is Murage Shoke. I use Magnus as the name that I go with for many reasons. It's a particular thing that I've been doing. It's a brand that I've actually been building, and it has a purpose. I am a graphic designer, trained graphic designer by profession. That's what I've done for many years, 20 years now. From the year 2000, actually. So this is 20th year. Yes, this is my 20 year anniversary. I am mostly, I went to college for it, but a lot of the things I learned were actually self-taught because we really didn't have much to do at that time. We didn't have computers, so we really had to learn on our own and how to do stuff. Yes, so that's my background. I'm a trained graphic designer. After 10 years of doing graphic design in 2010, I decided to venture into writing full-time, which is I decided to take a job as a copywriter, jump from being an art director, designer to an art director, and then went into copywriting. However, before even I went into copywriting, I was actually an art director. So I moved from a graphic designer into art direction, worked in a small agency. Yeah.
And you've mentioned three fields that are, for some they're familiar, but for many they might be quite new. Could you just give us an idea, what is a graphic designer, then moving on to an art director, and then a copywriter? What do you do? What is your everyday like when you're a graphic designer?
Okay, graphic design is basically the discipline. We create communication material. Basically, we sit down and produce work, posters, banners, stuff that you see in packaging. I did a lot of packaging for biscuits. I did a lot of packaging. Actually, one of the packages that I did collaboratively with a friend of mine was Aqua Mist water. If you've ever worked in the supermarket,
Oh yeah,
it's in Aqua Mist. That label is, yeah, that label is 20 years old. No,
nice, good job.
I didn't do it alone. I did with a friend of mine called Conrad. He was the main designer at that time, but we worked together. And so a graphic designer basically designs graphic communication to go on product packaging or company packaging, whether it's company profiles, annual reports. We're talking about anything that has any type of graphic elements to it that is published communication. So even books. I've done Bibles. I've done Bibles in Hausa language, so which basically only had text. So that's really the work of graphic designers. Yeah.
You bring the text to life using graphics.
You bring the text. Yes, with pictures, with words, and of course with an idea and a thought behind it. So, and using different graphic elements to make, color, to just make sure that whatever, the client wants to portray or to send out into the world really matches their brand, or, really catches the attention of you, the consumer, us, the consumers who are buying the products. If it's a product that is on the shelf, or it's for example, it's an annual report, or it's a book design. So graphic design is really wide. So a lot of people tend to specialize and say, maybe I want to be a graphic designer who does books, publication design. And you stick with publication design. So you do magazines, you do books, Bibles, anything in the publication space. Others decide they want to go more into the advertising side. So that's when you jump from being a graphic designer into more concept work. So there's an idea, there's a thought behind how I tell a story, or how I communicate with my customer, with my client, or what am I telling them, how I'm making them want to read more, So when it comes to art direction, now we talk more about ads, advertisements. So anything that you might see on billboards, okay, any ads you might see in the newspaper, if it's digital.
That's
yes,
art direction. We moved from design and now we're going into art direction. Yes. So it's now the ads and the billboards. And why the word director? Like, how is it that you're directing? Is it the same way we think of film, where there's a producer and a director? Is that how it's related?
Exactly. It's the same way. It's the director, because you are the one who decides based on a brief you've been given by your client. You say, okay, based on this brief, this is what the client wants to communicate. How do I put the visual elements, whether it's you're putting people in, products in, whatever, how to put the visual elements in so that they can tell a story, they can gel and tell a story. It's more than graphic design, it's very concept-led. So you have to have an idea first, and then use your graphic design skills to be able to put together an ad. I do understand there are a lot of people also who are out there who do art direction, and they might not be per se designers. And it could work for them. Sometimes it might not work so well for them, but it's great if you are a designer, then you move into art direction, because it means you can do the actual work, and you can now you can think of the concept and actually do the actual work. So that's where now art direction comes in.
So before we go into copywriting, because that's again another interesting, whole field, maybe give us or maybe show us or demonstrate to us sort of what is involved in this space, whether it's art direction, being an art director, or graphic design. The reason why I'd really like to showcase this, so for those who are in the field, of course, you this is very familiar to you. But
Yeah.
actually, for many people watching today and watching later, they might not even know the difference. And it could be a university student trying to figure out what they're going to be doing, a high school student who, same thing, or someone who just wants to try a new career, because COVID has taught us that maybe it's time
Yes.
to get out of our comfort seat. So could
Yes.
you just demonstrate one or two things and then walk us through, just for a short while, what that looks like?
Okay, I'll go into just a bit of my work first, and then we'll come back again to it later. What I want to just say is really for especially the people who want to like do something new, especially the younger guys. Maybe you're thinking of a career in communications. It's a good place, and you have you have a skill in art, or you have a passion for it. You can actually learn on your own now with YouTube. There's YouTube University. You can really do a lot of that.
Now.
Yeah, and a lot of us are actually self-taught. We started learning after about formally after about 10 years. How to use Adobe Suite. We started learning really formally, where we now we can say now we've got papers for it. But we took a long time before we actually got there. So we really had to teach ourselves a lot of things. So by the time the actual we're just doing paper, just doing so that you can get paperwork and say I'm Adobe certified, or I can be able to do this and this and do this software. So I'll just take you through some of the work. Let me choose some old work and just show you what design side is. So I think if you allow me, I could share the screen. That's okay.
Sure enough.
All right.
Yeah. Begin to share, and then I'll add it on. And while we're sharing, we have our first question. Thank you, Calvin, for these questions. The question is, do corporates like Safaricom have art directors internally, or is it a role in agencies only? I'll allow you to say that, because you've worked with lots of corporates.
Okay, corporates do not, well, they do. I've started seeing a lot of them starting to incorporate art directors and a design department within the marketing department. One, for synergy, I can understand, and also probably to reduce costs, because a lot of businesses are also trying to reduce costs. So they'll probably absorb a designer in or a copywriter in. I've not seen many do that here, but I know in the West, in Europe, a lot of them have done that. But it's still, you'll still find, of course, the big agencies. You still have the big agencies still doing work for, for companies like Safaricom, and because of the amount of work like Safaricom does, sometimes it's also best to also do it in an agency, because you might have two people who you've put into a marketing department as art directors, or designers, art directors, but the workload is too much.
True.
So it's best to set it up with an agency who have the resources. They have a string of 10, 15 art directors. You can always pick two and dedicate, and always have the input of another three, of another two maybe, when the work increases. So yes, a lot of companies are starting to do those roles. So if you want, you can actually look out for them, because I've seen a few. A lot of NGOs also have that, so you can also go into that. So yes, yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. So just put your screen up, and I'll bring it on.
Okay, I want to share my screen. I decided to just go into my old work. My old work from Behance. A lot of designers who might be here, or who want to go into design, need to have a portfolio that's online. Of course, I have a lot of work all over, but I just decided, let me just show you the portfolio on Behance, so that when you're starting, start right. Put up your work, stop putting it on your hard disks, and put it up, create a portfolio that people can see. So let me just share this in a minute.
And I like that, start right. And honestly, the secret here was passion. You mentioned passion. Literally, take the time to be excellent. YouTube is there. YouTube University is there. And yes, you work on Behance. Behance is a site for people to showcase their work. It's just a good way to call it your work. So we're really excited for your Behance profile. So if you just click share, you'll be able to
Let me share.
Yeah, there we go. Now, there we are.
Good. So if you could see the screen, this is Behance. You can see I've got a few tabs up there. I don't usually have so many tabs. So this is my Behance page. I've recently just updated it with some work. So I'll just scroll to the bottom, because I think I removed some. So I just want to show it from the beginning. Some of it is really work that I've done on my own. Some of it is agency work. So let me just click and see what this brings. Now this is art direction. So
Okay.
you can see that that's up.
Yes. Yes.
This good. So this was we did this. Of course, this a lot of these are collaborative projects. So I did this with a friend of mine. While I was working together with him. He's a very good friend of mine. It's called Tito. Tito's a great art director. So as two art directors, and I was the copywriter on the job. However, as two art directors, we were able to like really craft an idea, and he executed it. So he's very good in execution, very good in concept. So this is work that we've done collaboratively together. A lot of elements and things and storytelling that we've done in that. For example, in that picture, a little girl being kissed by a grandma and her mom. So that's what I talk about concept. It's not just a picture. There's an idea behind it. There's an emotion behind it. So that's some of the work that I've done. Let me just go to another one. Again, this is a lot of work I've done with Tito. I worked with Tito for a while. He's probably one of the best art directors I've met. Who we've worked together really, really gelled very well. So also this is a lot of his work. So as you can see, there's a concept to it. I'm sure you can see that, the taste of cool. You can see that Safari tea.
Yes, we can see it.
Good. So if you just
the bright colors around it, and you can tell it's a cool vibe because of even the choice of colors. Really, it's not the usual the dulls. It's the bright colors, and also the person who's dancing. So hip hop is always considered cool, and hence that is on there. So really, I like that. It brings out the movement. You can feel movement in a picture because of what the picture portrays and what it makes you think of. And that's quite very clear here. Yeah,
you've explained it well. I don't even need to explain it more than that. So that's it. That's one of the concepts. Another one has a girl. Again, concept again. What's the idea? So as you can see, it's each of them is targeted based on client's brief, based on color, and just to bring some vibrance, some emotion, some fun to it, because this was a fun product for young guys, as you can tell, right?
Purple, my favorite color is right there. Great.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. So this is art direction. This is complete art direction. I'll show you something that I personally also done. Let me just go to one of the goods. Now this is publication design. Now I'm coming back to graphic design, right? So I just want to show a few of design, graphic design, and what is art direction. So this is a publication I did for it's actually a book. It's actually a children's book. It's called Kundu, Ghost of the Forest. I really loved working on this because it gave me an open-ended brief. Just make it fun, make it for kids, make it look fun to read. So I designed this from scratch myself. So this is purely graphic design. And I use quite a number of elements. I don't have inside pages for this one, but yes, it's a kid's book, so it's very colorful inside. Stories, illustrations. So what we did is the illustrations are provided by the client briefs. They give you we get an illustrator to come in and draw pictures, and then now we put those together and create now the publication. I've also done
actually. Which I like. So again, another type of technology designer is an illustrator. If I could use, you could say a cartoonist, but we like the term illustrator because it really brings on much more. The other day I attended a live Zoom session, a Zoom call, and on the call was a lady who was doing live illustrations of the entire call. So instead of writing minutes, the minutes are written down as visuals, as either a cartoon or sound bites. And so that at the end of it, you have just one A4 size that shows the entire meeting, but it looks like you're reading a comic book, right? And you see the work of illustrators is way beyond cartoons. So first I would say let's call them illustrators and not cartoonists, because of course there's a difference there. But really, even being an illustrator is a profession. It's a profession, and Magnus is telling us he's worked with an illustrator on a book. So these are professions that you can actually go into full time, and we're really encouraging this audience to begin to think about it. Yeah. Sorry, Magnus, continue. Yeah, I was just really fascinated. Yeah.
Good. That's cool. That's cool. I love it. I love it. This is some of the work I did. What we call I was actually doing some work for client and pitching to Solidity Adobe. So again, this is concept. They didn't provide me with anything. I had to look for some of the picture itself. So I thought about an idea, and they were trying to sell the new E-class with the round lights. So I wrote the copy for this and I did the design for it. The client loved it. It didn't go out, but some work goes. That's something about us designers. We do a lot of work. Some of it sees the light of day, some doesn't. So this is one that didn't see the light of day. But I love it. I love it so much because I was able to just do what I wanted to do, and client loved it. And from there, it was the launch of that class, the Mercedes E-class with the round light. So I just put in a line. I also do the copy for them and say, we knew you'd love to see her eyes. That's what the copy says. So it's just really a tease on trying to make people, feel like, the car is a beautiful girl.
Exactly.
Something that you'll want to be able to see yourself, because the round lights were something new that time. Very few cars, of course, luxury cars were having those round lights at that particular time.
That's really great. We can. So you mentioned the challenge of doing work and done with the clients, and then the client is like, I'm not really interested. How does that make you feel? And tell us about a recent experience, because you've talked about DTW being one of them. How does it make you feel as a designer, because you've really put a lot of effort into it? How does that make you feel?
I always say, designers, you must be able to accept rejection a lot. Like, you must just have a thick skin and just laugh. When client says no, you just say cool and put it up on your portfolio, because it doesn't, okay, fine, they probably didn't take the work and they didn't pay you. That's okay. That one you've lost. But you still love the work so much. Put it up on your Behance, put it up on your portfolio. Because that another client, maybe the competition will see that ad and go like, wow, I love this. I want you. I want you to do my work. So you never know what that particular piece of work, design, art direction that you've done might be seen by someone even 10 years later, and they go like, you know what? I love your work. Maybe that's my competition, and I love what you did. So I would like you to, do some work for me. So it's very, as designers, you must have a thick skin. You just take rejection, just laugh, and just say, oh, cool, fine, thank you very much, and then ask the client, what do you want? What do you want to see if that conversation is still going on? Yeah. I'd like also to just continue showing some of this. This is a lot of graphic. This is art direction. Did some work again, Tito, for the Scorpio. This is brilliant. He just did as you can see, there's concept behind it. It's not just the car there.
Yes.
There's a thought behind it, because we wanted to, we were playing on the word Scorpio and Sting, and trying to, make people feel how this car would actually be like. It's people. Mahindra was at that time. Mahindra was really trying to revamp the brand. The cars were amazing, because I drove this particular car before we actually did the ad. We were given a car for a weekend, and just tested the car. It's a powerful diesel car. So then it changed my perception of, it's Mahindra. Oh, it's not just it's not a cheap car. It's a really nice 4x4. It might not be luxury, but it was a nice 4x4. It's got power. It's got everything like that. So then I wrote the ad. I wrote that Mustang, and after like 2 days, when we sat down and I told Tito, hey, how about we say Mustang? It's like, let me do something. He put it together, and we did it, and the client approved it immediately. And this actually also went out. So that's a lot of design. That's art direction and design.
And graphic design. And I like that one of the perks was you get a car for a weekend. I mean, that's a good perk to have in a job. And you get to experience it, because even for us in user experience design, it's better to experience something, right? So the reason why we take a long time doing research. So what you did was more or less research. You research the product. You research the people. You want, if you're building something for pregnant mothers, best be sure hang out, do research with them, go and really even hang out with them and understand what that means. If you're doing a product for matatu conductors, make sure you're a matatu conductor for a week, so that you can really understand what you design, what are you solving for, and then now you can design for it. So in this example here with Mahindra, it's fascinating.
Yes.
I didn't know Mahindra had that type of car, so it's
Yeah.
on that day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you're saying, it's exactly what happens in UX design, which we'll come to later. This research. It's important to research a product as a creative before you actually do an ad for it, especially if it's a product that you can hold in your hand that's on the shelf. It's important to go and check the product out. If it's a product maybe you probably won't partake of, you can ask someone to partake of it, and get their comments, get their feedback, understand more about the product before you actually do the ad, because it helps you to make a better judgment of that product. Yeah.
So another thing. So the topic for today that you proposed is starting from zero. Yes. And right now we've been talking about your previous sort of what you prioritized. I mean, the jobs that you had previously, at being an art director, being a graphic designer, and you then talked about copywriting. So is that your starting from zero journey, or is it both of them? But just tell us more about that.
Well, I think this, yes. So can I stop sharing screen? Then I can go back. Yeah. Let me stop.
Yeah.
Then I can go back. So for me, starting from zero is really very personal for me. Number one, because I'm really starting from zero with UX. I have been dabbling with UX for about a year now. Mm-hmm. Just trying to understand it. I've not really had a lot of time to put into it. However, when COVID came, probably 4 months ago, I actually decided, let me give it a go, let me give it a shot. So I started really going into it and saying, I know I want to do UX writing. Mm-hmm. As a designer, with my background as design, one of my mentors, he's called Regan Muganda. I hope he's logged in. He's a great UX designer. Yeah, he's actually a great UX designer in LA. He's amazing. He's an amazing guy. And he was, he's really held my hand and, sent me material to read and understand. So as I read more about the whole UX space, I started looking and saying, what can I specialize in now and then build up on? So I made a decision about 4 months ago, just when COVID came in, I made a decision about 4 months ago and said, I think I want to specialize first in UX writing, because as a writer, that's my love. That's what I love doing so much. And so I started researching a bit more into it, because remember, first I was doing UX, I was looking at UX as a whole and as a discipline, and I was trying to understand it. Then I saw a lot of topics about UX writing, just a few, not actually very few, about especially UX writing. So I just followed one of the guys on the internet, and I went to his blog. Then I think I clicked on another link and I saw a better link for UX writers. I was like, this is what I want. This is what I was looking for. I want to specialize in UX writing first, and then now start moving myself into the entire discipline of UX, the whole entire discipline of UX. So UX writing, of course, is in UX. So I would rather start from there, because it's a passion for me to be able to write, or the same thing I do from advertising as an advertising copywriter, which we'll come back to. I think I need to just quickly talk about it. Then now move directly into UX. Then maybe sometime going forward, I will probably now do the entire discipline of UX, because as a designer, we're always curious. We always want to go into learning new things and getting ourselves into new things. So I do want to do the entire discipline, but I'm starting from zero. And why the word zero again is technology, zeros and ones. So I'm starting from
I get it now.
You get it.
Cool. And the thing that I really picked up from this is, again, passion, but then again, choosing. And it's true, UX is wide. So as we started the show, I didn't mention human-computer interaction. That's now that big field that academically, that's UX. In industry, UX covers the whole umbrella, but really it falls under human-computer interaction. But now it's really big. You need to decide where you start. And I see my colleague here, Moses Mutua, and he knows that I really don't like it when people say they do UX UI. And that time they're not too sure When I ask them UX, when I try to give them a UX exercise, they get stuck. When I ask them to do stuff, they get stuck. Choose one and become really good at it. I'd rather meet a really good UI designer and work with them than look at a CV and it says UX stroke UI. And when I look at the CV, I see no UI or I see no UX. You see? So don't dabble at the surface. Don't try to impress people with terms.
Yes.
Magnus here is doing UX copywriting, which I can guarantee you, in and of itself, is a very much needed craft and profession. So for those now looking into UX, or those who've been in UX for some time, especially again, if you have that UX stroke UI in your CV, tonight just go back to it and really ask yourself, which one are you? Even if you're 100% sure you're very good in both, I mean, I'd love to showcase you or to even just have a chat with you. But most of the times I find some really good UI people and I get completely impressed. Like, my goodness, where did you come from? Or I meet a really good interaction designer. Another thing I'm trying to look for in CVs is interaction designer. And you understand what that is, then please put it on your CV. And when I find one, I get blown away. UX researchers is another field. UX copywriters, Magnus is talking about, another field that we actually look for. So specialize, follow your passion, specialize, do a bit of research, talk to those who've been in the field. Magnus has mentioned a friend. So really that's really about what it is. And yeah. So when you talked about UX copywriting, I like that you said you were starting from zero. Again, passion, because you're passionate about it and you have a lot of experience, in graphic design and art direction. So you're bringing all that in now. So it's like you're moving from the pictures to the words. Do you find that an easy transition, or has it always been about the words, the text?
For me, from 2010 is when I became a copywriter working in an agency. I just made a shift one day and I said, I don't want to do art direction anymore. And I quit that job. And I left that job. Then I went out for about 6 months and I really worked hard to do copywriting. Like, I did a lot of stuff on my own. I did ads, I did radio ads. I didn't even produce them, I just wrote them. I just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And of course, out of that writing, I had a few good samples. And a friend of mine introduced me to an agency and they hired me. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So after 6 months of leaving, saying I don't want to do art direction, now I want to move copy. So from 2010, I've actually been a copywriter, working in advertising mostly. However, I've also been in the middle. I've also done consultancy work. So doing consultancy, I've also been able to do my own. I've been able to do my own design and my copy. It's difficult. It's fun. But it's difficult, and I'll tell someone again what you're saying about specializing. Just specialize, be good at something. So I decided at some point I don't want to do art direction. I've worked in a couple of agencies after that, small. I've also worked in the big agencies, the biggest agencies, doing Safaricom work, doing big client work, and as a writer, as a copywriter. And I always just tell guys, I am not doing art direction. I'm not touching that.
You remember you director and you're like, no.
No, I'm not doing it. And especially when working with a good art director, I don't need to. He already knows, he gives his ideas. What we do is now we bounce off our experience of each other. That's the beauty part of it. We can always bounce our experience. And I say, you're the art director. I'm a copywriter. I do the words, you do the pictures. And as much as I can do the pictures, you do it because you're good. When we need to review, we'll look at it together and we put our heads together, not just me, we put our heads together and we'll make it work if we feel the elements don't work. And I think I've been lucky to work with some very good art directors who are also, we bounce off ideas both from the copywriting side and from the design side. So it's been a journey from, it's been 10 years right now as a writer in advertising, working on big brands. I've done work for ICOM, I've done work for Cellulant, I've done work for US Embassy. I can show some of them. I've done work for Nairobi City County, Kidero. Yeah, I'll show one of them here. And it's been a lot of just trial and error and learning and going into YouTube and just learning, and also school. I've also been learning. I've also been taking short courses just to learn how to write better copy, to be able to understand products, be able to answer briefs better. And it's been a good journey. I know someone had asked, what is a copywriter?
Yes,
And,
in fact,
because I think,
from Sydney, what does he mean by UX writing? Is it publicly available?
Someone had asked, someone asked, I think, what's a copywriter, what does a copywriter do? So I don't know if it's, maybe I should just, I don't know. Sorry, well, a copywriter is very simple. A copywriter writes the words that go on ads. So we write words that go on billboards, on marketing material, and we also write scripts, TV and radio. I've done quite a number of TV and radios in my lifetime. I've done many, I've done so many. Both Safaricom, I've done, I think, one of the best work I've ever done with a creative director called Justin, was Relax, You've Got M-Pesa. I think that was one of my best Safaricom work I've ever done. Sat down, wrote the script, worked it out, worked the story, and he executed it. So I'm glad to have worked with a lot of good great designers, great mentors, great people who hold your hand and tell you this is how we do it, or this they take your idea and they bring it to life. Because as a script, writing scripts is,
I think we've lost him there for a second. Are you back?
I'm back.
Oh.
Yes. Sorry. So a lot of copywriting, really, you've got to write scripts, radio scripts, you've got to write TV scripts, you've got to write communication material. So it's a whole lot of that. And it's not just writing smart copy or smart things or saying smart things. No, it's about communication. It's about understanding how to communicate to the user. So as I delved more into it, that's how I started now liking, when I started seeing user UX, I started saying, okay, UX is all about first understanding what the user, what the user really wants to see, understanding the user, provide them with a meaningful experience for either for the product or whatever that they're going to use, and use design, the designing entire process. So it was a very, I looked at UX and said, it's interesting because you have to see what the person wants, then write from that perspective, really, which is really what in advertising we do. So it was very easy to make the switch and say, this is what I want. I want to go into UX. This is the next stage, next evolution of where I want to go. Yeah.
So allow me to pick a few questions which we can probably answer in quick succession. So from Tevin, hi Tevin. What should companies who can't afford individual positions for UX, UI developers, and UI designers do? Should they hire an all-rounder or prioritize based on needs? I think that's a really good question, and I'll give a quick experience. So I was providing consultancy for a small company. We can call it a startup, and they had this exact need. So you could see that they needed all these three, but they have limited resources. So it's really the second thing that has been proposed here, where you prioritize based on needs, right? So it's not that you will necessarily need all these skills at the same time. You can bring someone in for the time, then maybe get the next skill set. Of course, you have to have a way for them to collaborate. So fortunately, in this new era and the new way of working, having people come in for short gigs is not uncommon. So this could be one of the strategies. But then again, it always depends. But really, this could be one of the strategies. Then we have another point here from Peter Jorgen. I think this is a perfect question for you, Magnus. As a copywriter, I have to say our craft is really unappreciated or misunderstood, mostly by the clients. I'm glad to have worked with Rags. Oh, Rags is your other name.
Yeah.
For Safaricom for about 3 years, keep striving, old friends. Oh, that's a really, really great comment. And is it understood? Could you allow us to, how is copywriting understood or unappreciated? Why would you feel it is?
It is in a point, especially with working with clients who don't understand that it's got to, the headline has to say something. What you see first on an ad has to reel me into the ad. And some of them just want to, they want to tell you what to say on the ad. And it's fine. I always say client is always right at the end of the day. However, sometimes you've got to be able also to steer them in the right direction, because you also don't want their product or their ad to fail. no, I don't think I've ever done work that I want to fail on, and I always tell client, I think we could do it like this. And again, it's also collaboration with clients. Remember, I always say clients are partners. So when we see each other as partners, then he sees me as a professional and he's a professional in what he does, then, or she does, it's very easy to say, okay, I think this is what we should say based on our target market. And these are the words, and this is how we should say it. You also choose even the language, even the style of writing, even if it's humor, is that what your target market wants? If it's a humorous side. So sometimes clients don't understand that. They don't appreciate the fact that you're thinking about these things, you're interacting with their customers to understand how they are thinking, the customers are thinking, to understand how to speak to them. So it's really, yes, I'd say it's really unappreciated. However, I think in the number of places that I've worked so far, I have very good clients, very good client partners who understand that copywriting is important.
Yes.
Even when they give their input, and we do take their input and put it up and say, okay, this is your input, we'll always give them and tell them, look, it's important that you understand, if we go like this, it might not work the way you want it to work. And client knows. So everyone is on standby knowing, okay, we said it, let's try it. And a lot of the time, we even a lot of ads, and it's really trial, because you really don't know how it will be taken out there. So maybe the client is right also in what they want to say, because it's their product, it's their brand, it's their service. So you have to listen to them and advise them and then work together. So I do understand what you're saying about being unappreciated.
Being unappreciated. Sorry, Peter, but I hope that you still stay on in the craft. We need you guys. Very good question from Fiona here. What are some of the short courses you've done or you've taken on copywriting? I think earlier on you mentioned that you're doing some courses. So could you direct us into what those are in case people here are interested in taking that up?
There are many. There are so many.
Maybe your top two, or the two that come to mind.
Wow. What I did, like, this is many years ago, so I can't even remember. It's somewhere in my file, because it came as a book. It's not digital. It came as an entire book, So it was a course that I did on writing, copywriting. I'm trying to remember the name of the course. I can't remember, but it was a 1 year, about 8 months course on copywriting. I think what we could do, maybe later I can look for those links because I have them. Okay, and we can put them under the YouTube page, then maybe it's easier for them to find out, because I might give a wrong. I know some of them closed down. Actually, some of two that I did actually close down, which were short courses for copywriting. I don't see them anymore on the internet. But if you just, I look for one that I know. I've not done it, but I know it's very good. I can just post it up there. Yeah,
that's really, really good. And yeah, thank you guys for your comments. I can see them coming. Cynthia, thank you. Derek, Brina, and I may not have read all the names because I'm just rushing through. But yeah, Violet, thank you very much for your comments. And Angela. So Skada Norina says, is this a question? Oh, okay. So he says he'd lose his mind if he had to do copy work. That being said, I appreciate the role that UX writers play in a product. There's so many writers around. How do we encourage more to cross over? So I guess crossing over from, for writers in general who want to venture into UX, where would you advise them to start? Great question, because that's really what we've been talking
about. If you want to, I think from me, my background is really design and advertising. So it's very easy for me to have made the switch. For someone who's probably been a fictional writer or a technical writer or business writer, maybe a journalist, I would say they probably need to understand more about their audience also. And because now it's almost the same, because it's the same craft. Even as a journalist, you must understand who you're writing for. You must understand the language that you're writing in. If you're writing to youth, you must use use language that youth would understand. If you're writing for Business Daily, for example, you will be writing in a business, with business people in mind. So how to encourage the crossover? It's very simple. Just go to the internet, we'll put a couple of links. I'll send out a couple of links for UX writers. I love that site. In fact, it's probably the top site that I'll put up, because it's specifically for writers and anyone who's been in journalism or writing, fictional, anyone who's a creative writer. anyone who's a creative writer can be able to go on it and start learning how to be able to craft copy for the technology space, and that's where I am. So, and I'm still green in it. For me, I've just started from zero. I've just rebuilding up. But I, like someone like my friend who's there, Peter. I'll tell Peter, he's a copywriter. I know he's a great copywriter. If he wants to make the jump in, I'll tell him, just go to the website, read what is required. It's exactly what you do. Just start understanding what the craft of UX itself is first. So I'll put up a couple of links, some of the best links I've seen for UX, anything UX and anything UX writing. Yeah.
Great. So we'll pick this question from Lavette. I don't know if it's Yvette or Lavette, because it's quite critical. So she asked, could you please touch on pricing as a creative? Do you have standard rates for projects, or do you charge differently depending on the clients?
As a creative, I definitely I have a standard rate for some things. For example, if you tell me you want to do an annual report publication, I will okay, and you give me the brief, tell me number of pages and what's required and the scope of work. I will definitely have a certain rate that I use. Based on the scope of work, I can increase that amount or I can reduce that amount based on, again, the scope of work. But if someone wants, for example, a poster for your shop or something, you have a shop and you want to sell something, you want to put up a sales poster. There's also a standard rate for that. I don't charge more than I won't charge Kagonya, this much, and then I charge someone else this much. I have a standard rate. So I say, if it's a poster, it's a brochure, if it's a publication, if it's a Bible, I know this is how much I charge to do the design.
And how did you know? If I'm new to it, how will I know how to price? Or is it, will I have to take you for coffee, then ask you what your rate card is? Literally just, subtract maybe $20 because I'm starting out. How do I know? $20 per hour or however you charge it?
It's a number of things that I look at. Number one, of course, is scope of work. So you definitely know from the scope of work, this is how long it will take me. Now, every single designer, every creative you can tell, okay, how long does it take me to do a publication? Maybe it's 12 pages. If it's a book, an annual report, for example, or a case study report. It's 12 pages. I can already know it'll take me a day and a half or 2 days. So from that, I already know my rate per day or rate per hour, depending on how I charge. So it's very easy for me to say, based on, I'll do it for this number of hours. This is about how much I'll charge. So I already know that. So it's also a bit of experience to understand that I can tell you this price, and then you tell a client that, and they look at you and say, but you don't have experience to charge that much. So it's really based on experience. Some designers charge so much more for the same thing that probably I would do, or I would charge so much more for something that a designer who's probably 5-10 years into the craft would charge. Why? Because, again, of experience. I would say 1.5 days, but probably I would do it in 3 hours and I'm done. So I do understand my abilities. So it's important to understand your abilities even as you quote. You can't give a timeline that you can't meet at some point. Yeah.
And would you advise people to add? I like the way you said that you can take 3 hours, but you'll charge for 1.5 days. I guess it's now you said so you can meet your deadline. Do you also include thinking time? I like to say that you need to get those creative juices running. So do you actually include that to make it 1.5?
Well, it's part of concept. Again, I can get the concept in 2 minutes, and I sketch it out, and I implement it, and I send it to client. Again, or I could take a day and a half to actually come up with the concept. Creative work is it's not mechanical. It's very there's of course it's a process, but it's not mechanical that I can say it'll take. It's like this. Sometimes I just wake up and I'll churn for weeks. I'll churn out work. And then for 1 week, I just can't churn out work. Or I'm not, I'm in the space. I'm thinking, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Or this is how I should do it. And maybe I'm working out an idea for longer. But sometimes I work an idea for 2 minutes and 10 minutes and I'm done. But I'll still charge my cost, my rate, because I know this job should take this long in my rate. Yeah.
So I'll pick one because time has flown so quickly. I can't believe it. We just have 10 minutes. But I'll pick one last question from our audience. and then I will probably, because you've really talked about, yeah, and then I'll end with one final question to you. But you've really covered a broad range of topics. And honestly, the audience, thank you very much. Your questions are superb. In fact, it was more or less what we're really looking forward to discussing today. So Kelvin asks us if either of us could review his UX portfolio and let him know how he can improve on it. Yes, of course.
Yes.
As find us on LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to support. Magnus, I'm sure you're happy to do that, because really this is what this Designers Craft is about. It's about conversations with gurus like Magnus, and then now anyone else who is either venturing in the field or trying to improve or completely new to it. These are the conversations that would guide us there. So thank you very much for the comments, Tony and Jeff and Derek. So Alex asks, what's the best strategy you use to sell or get clients or stakeholders to buy into your design? Great question, Alex. In fact, perfect question. And Derek asks, many creatives struggle to finish a project. Any tips on how you can maintain focus? So yeah, those are the two last questions, Dave. Yeah, so the first one is really, how can you convince the clients that this is a great piece of work, this is what fits the profile? Yeah, how do you do that? It's quite a struggle, actually.
Number one, okay, of course you've got to have the idea. So you've got to sell how you created the idea, the concept, the craft, what you're doing. You've got to be able to sell it. So for example, I'll give you an example. Some of the work that we've been able to do, best strategy to use is always have a concept behind it, always have a rationale, right? A rationale, basically, what made you come to this? What's the insight? I think rationale is really the insight. What's the insight what's the nice sweet spot that you saw that you've taken and used to be able to do your advertising, your UX, whatever it is that you want to do. So I think that's one strategy to use. Make sure you explain how you are able to come up with. Let it make sense. I've had people say this before. Creative rationale is just garbage. It's just things that people put. No, you've got to be able to explain. How did I think of this like this? Why? What are the insights? And then now come into, this is the work that I've done for you. It's very important to have a preamble of this before you show your client the work. You don't just wake up and say, here's the work. You wanted this? Here it is. No. You explain to them, this is how we went through this. This is what you wanted. This is what we have. We sat down and thought about. This is the insights that we've picked from your target market about your product, your brand, your service. And from what you've said you wanted to see and what we felt that is an insight that works with what you wanted to see, now this is what we've come up with. That's the best strategy to sell to any client. If you just show work, they wouldn't understand, hey, why do I have that hand there? Why, they wouldn't understand. So you have to sell them into the work with something meaningful. It's got to be, your rationale has to be meaningful. Yeah.
That's excellent. Yeah, that again, the rationale and sort of how did you get, what inspired you, your inspiration for you to give that product?
Yes.
That's really, really great. Yeah. And then, so related to that, then how do you get that inspiration? Or related to Derek's question, how do you maintain your focus?
For me, different things. If I know at some point I've got stuck and I feel like I can't really do much, I just listen to music. I listen to music. I just listen to classical music. And so, yeah, I just listen to classical music for a while, or music that I really love. I really love classical music. I think it helps me think and relax. Everyone can use their own strategy. I get away from the computer, go and do something else, go and work out. I go and work out. After a workout maybe of 30 minutes, I probably have an idea, maybe I won't, but at least still I've got my mind off. And I know maintaining focus is hard, especially for creatives with maybe a lot of projects happening. But I'll say if you wake up and you say, I'm going to get this done today, it's very easy. I have a task sheet. I know today I must finish Kagonya's poster. Must. Before 5 o'clock, I must finish it. And I assign myself tasks and say, between this and this time, maybe I'm starting from zero, blank page. Between this and this time, I must think about the concept. So I give myself a timeline. I give myself 1 hour, 2 hours to think and just work out concepts. Then from that 1 hour, whatever I have, I move into the next stage putting them together, into the concept and everything. So I know between 8 o'clock and 5 o'clock, I should have finished that work, and it keeps me focused. So that's also another thing. Have a task sheet and say, I'm doing this task between this time and this time. So you always know when you're behind. So also that's another thing that I use to keep me focused.
I like that you mentioned that, you have a project and it has to be finished by this time. In fact, dear viewers, one of the greatest motivators to finish your work is a deadline. And often people tell you do not procrastinate. But one of the gurus in user experience, his name is Don Norman. He talks about how procrastination. You read that article, right?
Yeah.
About how procrastination, in fact, is a thing that makes him complete a lot of his work. This is a guru. He's had 70 years experience in this craft. He's even defined a lot of the things that we use in UX today. Yes. And he champions procrastination. I'll probably put in the link later. But I found it quite interesting because often when we procrastinate, we feel a bit guilty. But sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, because procrastination sometimes is an enemy of planning. But sometimes that kind of procrastination will force you to deliver magic in that last 8 hours. You might deliver magic. But this is really great. I think you should allow us to know, how can we find you online? What are your handles? What is your LinkedIn page? How can we find you online?
Okay, on Facebook, I'm Magnus MG. You find me there. On LinkedIn, it's Morage Gishoke. I have to use my actual name because of recruiters. And then clients, especially have clients, so I have to use my real name. On Twitter, I'm also Magnus MG, or at I'm the Sensei. But if you just type Magnus MG on Facebook, on Twitter, you find me. On LinkedIn is what is Morage Gishoke. You'll find me there. On Behance, for all the creatives who also want to, even not creatives actually, even anyone, a client who wants to go and see work, or just people who just want to see the kind of work that can be done. It's you can go to Behance and find me there again, Magnus MG. It's the same handle throughout. I'm doing a blog and I'm doing content right now. So I know someone has asked about a blog. It's packed right now, and there's a reason it's packed, because there's so much that I'm doing with it, and I really wanted to focus on UX writing, and especially UX writing and brands and marketing. So there's a reason it's packed, because I just feel I've just started off in UX writing, so I don't want to really write I don't go deep into it. So I've packed the blog for now, but it's going to go up. It's really going to be anyone who is in advertising, who's in UX, and anyone who's in marketing can be able to put all the three together, because those are the two things I want to write about. So it'll be up very soon. Again, I'm very sure it'll be it's under the Magnus MG or Magnus handle, so that's going to come up.
Thank you very much, Magnus. I mean, this has been nothing short of tremendous. I've really had a good time. Our audience has had a great time, and thank you for sharing these tips. I've heard so many key things here. I've had passion. I've had focus on something. Doesn't mean you can be good at more than one thing. As you've demonstrated to us, you're great in that direction, great in graphic design, and now moving into UX copywriting, which again you have the great skills for. So you can be great in things, but I like that focus at first. And then that inspiration, which you're getting from music, from gymming, and different things here and there. So this has been quite a great conversation. And thank you for joining us on the very first Designers Craft.
I want to share one last thing. I want to share one last thing, Kangoja. Please.
Please.
Can I share the screen quickly? Very, very, very quickly. Yeah.
2 minutes. Yes.
2 minutes. Okay. Good. 1 minute, 2 minutes. It'll be done in a few. So I'd like to share this because I think we did this together. So
yes. Oh, true. Yeah. Just click share screen and I'll add you on.
Yeah. I've done share, and there we go.
Oh yes. How can I forget that great work you did for us?
Yes. So this is you challenged me. You told me you needed a poster, and I did this, and I just want to talk about it because it's something that I wanted to be able to. We did this together. You gave me the brief, and I was able to put this together as a designer. And I love the fact that you are the best client I probably worked with. You didn't have changes. That's what I wanted to say.
You see, now we also learn how to be a good client. Don't complain too much. Appreciate the craft of the designer. Really, that makes life quite easy. So thank you very much, Magnus. Thank you very much for all who joined us. Again, my name is Kagonya Awori, and we'll be having Designers Craft every month, where we'll be showcasing and talking about our lovely, talented African designers. I can be found on LinkedIn as Kagonya Awori, on Twitter. Just search for Kagonya Awori and probably Twitter will come up, because my Twitter name is quite difficult to remember. And I don't use Facebook, so sorry about that. But on Instagram, again, it's Tafakari. But again, if you search for Kagonya Awori, it'll probably pop up. Thank you, guys, and see you next month, same time, to another episode of Designers Craft. Ciao, guys. Have a good evening.
Ciao. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.